Have you ever been so focused on getting somewhere that you forgot to check whether you're still headed where you wanted to go? Sometimes we become so occupied with moving forward that we stop noticing where we're going. Deadlines to meet, decisions to make, and before long, each day begins to blend into the next. Wake up, keep moving, handle what's in front of you. Repeat. Momentum can be a powerful thing. Once we're in motion, it's often easier to keep going than it is to stop and ask questions. Questions like, is this still what I want? Does this still matter to me? Am I moving towards something meaningful? Or am I simply moving because I already am? There's nothing wrong with momentum. In many ways, it helps us build, grow, and carry ourselves through difficult seasons. But momentum can also make it easy to overlook small changes, the priorities that have shifted, the dreams that no longer fit. The road ahead can remain familiar long after we've stopped feeling connected to it. And sometimes we don't notice that disconnection right away. We only sense a quiet restlessness, a feeling that something is off, a feeling that despite all the effort, something isn't quite aligned. Perhaps it's time to stop and look around for a bit. Every journey benefits from the occasional glance out the window and a moment to remember why you started moving in the first place. It's easy to assume that movement and progress are the same thing. After all, when we're busy, it feels like something must be happening. The days continue moving forward, and from the outside, it can look as though everything is on track. But movement and direction are not the same thing. A car can travel for hours and still end up somewhere it never intended to go. Because movement alone doesn't determine where we arrive, direction does. Sometimes we become so focused on staying in motion that we never pause long enough to ask whether the road we're on still leads where we'd like to go. The things that once mattered may have changed. The reasons we started may have changed. Even we may have changed. And yet the momentum continues, forward. There can be comfort in staying in motion. Questions become easier to postpone. Doubts become easier to ignore. As long as we're moving, we can tell ourselves we'll think about it later. But later has a way of becoming months or years. And eventually, we may find ourselves wondering why a destination we've worked so hard to reach doesn't feel quite the way we imagined. Because somewhere along the journey, we stopped checking the map. Every traveler drifts from time to time. Every path requires adjustment. Stepping back can feel like moving in the wrong direction, away from progress, away from momentum, away from where we're trying to go. But sometimes stepping back isn't about creating distance, it's about creating perspective. There are things we can only see once we've stopped standing so close to them. A painting makes more sense when viewed from across the room. A landscape reveals itself from higher ground. Even a map becomes easier to read when we stop walking long enough to unfold it. Life is much the same. When we're caught up in the middle of things, our view becomes narrow. And while those things may deserve our attention, they can also make it difficult to see the bigger picture. Difficult to see where we've been, and whether the direction we're traveling still feels right. Stepping back creates space for those questions. Sometimes a few moments of distance can reveal something that months of constant movement could not. Perhaps even a reminder that we're already closer than we think. Perspective has a way of changing what we see. Sometimes all that's changed is the distance from which we're looking. Maps exist for a reason. Navigators check their bearings. Travelers pause from time to time to make sure they're still on the right road. Because staying on course requires occasional adjustment. No journey unfolds in a perfectly straight line. Roads curve, weather changes, detours appear. And sometimes, we discover that the destination we chose years ago no longer feels quite the same. We learn, we grow, our circumstances change, our priorities change. And sometimes, the direction that once made perfect sense no longer fits. This is often where we begin to reorient. Not always through a dramatic decision. More often it begins with something much smaller, a question, a realization, a willingness to acknowledge that something has changed. Small adjustments can alter the course of an entire journey. You only need enough clarity to make the next one. Because a journey is rarely shaped by a single decision. More often, it is shaped by the many small corrections we make along the way. At some point, every journey invites the same question. Where am I trying to go? A simple question, yet it isn't always an easy one to answer. Life has a way of filling our attention with immediate concerns, deadlines, responsibilities, the things that seem most urgent. And somewhere along the way, the larger picture can fade into the background. Perhaps that's one of the reasons we need moments like this. Moments to step back. Moments to ask whether the direction we're moving still reflects what matters to us. Whether the destination we're pursuing still feels like our own. The answer may be clear, or it may still be taking shape. Some destinations reveal themselves gradually, and sometimes all we need is a direction that feels honest enough to take the next step. Perhaps that's enough for now, a little clarity, and a willingness to continue the journey from where we are. Perhaps this moment of reflection has brought something into focus. Or perhaps it hasn't, yet. Some answers take time, and some roads only reveal themselves as we travel them. Regardless, the road ahead remains, and so does the journey, one turn at a time, one adjustment at a time, one step at a time.